thank you very much for the kind introduction and especially for the invitation that I can be here and present my vision and perspective on the topic of area histories, specifically on the topic of multilinguality and data access. I'm afraid my presentation will not be about nice tools or data sets in the library you could use, but I would like to give some impulses to network and to think about how we can change the knowledge infrastructures which surround us. And specifically, I would like to first give a short introduction. Why is multilingual DH, the question, important for scholarly research in general, I would argue, and for libraries and cultural heritage institutions in particular. Then I would like to talk about the challenges and barriers of multilingually enabled digital knowledge infrastructures, and from an area studies librarian's perspective. And then regarding the questions, who are the multilingual digital humanists, a user persona initiative, I would present the results of a joint initiative, as already said, resulting from a survey on digital humanists. What can be done? Calling for more faculty library collaboration to disrupt digital monolingualism would be my final part, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. And my idea for the presentation was that we can have questions after each part. I've prepared some discussion points, and so I hope we have a lively presentation before the next coffee is available. Regarding my background, what forms my position on the topic, as already said, I'm a research and liaison librarian for East Asian Studies with a special focus on digital humanities, research data management for the East Asian Studies disciplines. I'm also working in the German research data initiative historical network called ReCentGlobe. And my background, as already said, is in Japanese studies, so this is my area studies background. I've written a PhD on the acceptance of social robots in Japan, and you might think, oh, this seems very far away. But actually, I found when coming to the library and doing a library graduate, postgraduate training and another master course in library information sciences, that actually the method of science and technology studies and the question how technology shapes knowledge infrastructures, and by this also research and teaching at universities, is very much useful as it was for researching how technology is communicated and invented and talked about in Japan. So there is also this overlap about socio-cultural background of research software development, standards, and so on. And this is my library information sciences background, which comes in, and especially here regarding the lobby activities for more multilingual, multi-script research and infrastructures for area studies. This is what that was my starting point, actually, when starting to work in the university library, that I was a little bit shocked how bad the support and thinking about other scripts and research, international research was. I found it in Germany at least very hierarchical and very German-focused. And I will bring some examples later. But so these are the perspectives I bring with me here today. And another part is the library I'm working in. So I'm working in the university central library, but also in the faculty library called Campus Library. And here you can see in this library we have a lot of area studies disciplines, or in Germany they are also called small disciplines. Maybe you have heard about this strange word in German, kleine Fächer. But you can see they seem to be small from the personal resources, staff resources point of view, but their topics and languages and everything is not at all small. So in this library we have over 200,000 media and non-Latin scripts. And yeah, the faculty is about, for Chinese studies, 25 scholars, in Japanese studies 17, and Korean studies 12. And we have about 800 students in the East Asian studies disciplines. Yeah, so why is the multilingual DH question important in general for research, but also especially for libraries? In a joint presentation I gave together with my colleagues Alice Horvath and David Risley in the Friday Frontiers webinar, which you kindly also mentioned already, we summarized this in this way that researchers are in reality multilingual, and they draw upon many different linguistic resources. So not only area studies or area histories researchers, but yeah, this is a reality in academia, but it is not met from an infrastructure point of view. And yeah, so it's not only about using many languages at the same time. Maybe the term multilingual sounds in the first moment very linguistically, yeah, working with many languages, but it means more. It means working with different languages for different purposes. And so, yeah, as already said, this problem that infrastructure doesn't meet this motto is really a problem. So the topic is also here then about linguistic diversity and inclusion in research. As a basic critique of how knowledge infrastructures are designed, I always like this citation from George Steiner, where he refers to the electronic communication, the linguistic codes and algorithms, which all are founded on a subtext, or how he calls it, a linguistic prehistory, which is fundamentally Anglo-American. And so computers and data banks chatter in dialects of an Anglo-American mother tongue, the quotation. What is more, in a recent publication from Isabel Zaug about language justice in the digital sphere, this shows that it is not only about computers or maybe citation indexes or so in Anglo-American languages, but it is also about power structures. She, in her very interesting paper in the monography Global Language Justice, she argues that languages of, I quote, former and current imperial powers and high-income nations are well supported, while languages of indigenous, minorized communities, and even national languages of low-income countries are digitally disadvantaged. And I would add here that it's not only even low-income countries, but also, for instance, when it comes to, in my field, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. So in other words, the global power dynamics of marginalization, exclusion, and oppression that have created the hierarchies among human beings and their languages are fully present in the digital sphere. So her call is for language justice in the digital field, which would include equitable access to digital tools in one's primary language. And that would require that digital support can be developed for all languages and scripts where there's a community desire. We talked about wishes this morning already, but I think it's very important to formulate it like this. And second would be the maintenance of languages and scripts, orthography and diction within digital tools, lest digital support sap them of the integrity and intricate knowledge they contain. And third would be also justice for speakers who may have harmful digital surveillance or under moderation of language content once the language gains foothold in the digital sphere. I think, when we read the news, we know about problems in these topics as well. So my starting moment was a conference with the great motto, Disrupting Digital Monolingualism, organized by Paul Spence in 2020 at the King's College in London, and where researchers from all over the world came together and talked about digital monolingualism. And this was also the place where, together with David Risley and Alice Horvath and Cornelis van Lith, we started to make a small survey about the challenges and needs of researchers who work in multilingual, with multilingual sources or in an international research environment. I will come on the results later. When it comes to libraries, however, there are reports, for instance, from the Europeana Association, who is bringing together the digital cultural heritage in Europe. And in their report on the benefits of multilingual digital cultural heritage, they noted that it's very important that people can access the information of other cultures and language groups. The point is that multilingualism promotes socially inclusive societies and mutual understanding of different cultures. So digitizing sources also in multiple languages and scripts is not something only for maybe a few area studies researchers, but has really a meaning in our societies here. The UNESCO is also making a point about open science, and that making multilingual scientific knowledge openly available, accessible, and reusable for everyone helps to increase scientific collaboration and opening science. However, what I can see in my surrounding in university library world, language is still one of the most important barriers that pose an obstacle to sustaining of global knowledge diversity, because catalogs don't support other scripts, or the search algorithm is not available or not well trained for non-Latin scripts, or there's a preference of high impact Anglophone journals and so on. So I would argue that the sustainability of libraries and knowledge infrastructures, especially in the global north, should be challenged with regard to embracing more linguistic and geocultural diversity, as well as the accessibility and discoverability of their collections. We've seen already that there are many languages and challenges and scripts here in this room. From a library perspective, I can relate to that and maybe give some input here and show you what's bothering me of the reality of knowledge infrastructures. And first of all, maybe it starts with the problem that there are not so many area studies librarians per se. There's a very interesting blog defining the international and area studies librarian in an era of reorganization. And the colleague from the US, he summarized that area studies librarians are a relatively, I quote, homogenized view from the outside, in brackets, the people who handle funny shaped writing systems, brackets, and countered by a highly nuanced view from within. And this creates unique challenges in communicating realistically the role and value of international and area studies libraries and librarians in a system of academic libraries that is responding to and undergoing many changes. So, of course, as you can imagine, libraries have to always be adapted to how knowledge is created and stored. And in the digital transformed age, of course, this poses a lot of new challenges. And but it also means that there are enough staff positions and also experts in the library who bring a background in area studies. And this is often not the case, I discovered. What results from that is very well summarized in a book, Supporting Research in Area Studies, a guide for academic libraries, by an East European Studies librarian, Leslie Pittman. And she has listed the barriers of access that hinder area studies research. And it starts with the existence of hidden collections. And I think in the first presentation this morning, we already heard about that their libraries have, for instance, many maybe manuscripts in Arabic, but they are not visible. They are somewhere in the stacks. They are not cataloged because there's a lack of expertise. Nobody can read the script, and a lack of positions. Then when it comes to shelving and how to subject index books and information, then there we often find inappropriate classification schemes which are very Eurocentric. So the worldview of what is religion, what are history periods, is just European, or even maybe in Germany, German. So it's always, you always would have to find workarounds. But what is very worrying in these days, that these classification schemes are now used, for instance, to train corpora for large language models to automatically subject index information, especially the vast mass of digital information. And or it is used in catalogs to help users to find keywords. And so if you are, if this is so German-centric from the from the beginning, you will not find what we have actually in the library catalog. Other problems are variations in cataloging or metadata, technical standards for foreign language collections. So this also includes how you transcribe, for instance, Japanese, Chinese, Tibetan, or what language ever. And for instance, in Germany, the library world has decided that it is necessary to have transcriptions that librarians who cannot read the original script can read the metadata. But the meaning, I still don't understand why this is necessary, because they don't need to do anything with this data. They will also not research this data, and they cannot decide, oh yeah, this is the correct thing, because they don't know about the language. But so, for instance, in our library, the librarians have to double catalog in original script and in transcription, so it takes twice the time. And and then when it comes to indexing in our catalog, then only the transcripted version will be indexed and found. So this is really a problem. Then, of course, there are license restrictions. I think this accounts for every library in general when it comes to electronic resources. But this is a special problem when, in the regions or the areas where the research is done, there are no electronic resources. There's a lack of availability because the publication culture is different, or as, for instance, in the Japanese case, there's a very strict copyright law, and publishers have a big lobby, and they, because of that, it's not possible to access the National Diet Library, digital library, from outside Japan, or only with, very big difficulties. And finally, of course, the lack of area studies librarian positions, including an acknowledgement of qualification and training, because normal library trainings don't include a specialization in an area. It's just you have to learn about information systems and discovery systems, classification systems, personal resources, management a lot. And there's a big payment gap, at least in Germany, between subject librarians and liaison librarians. So, there's a lot to be done. Another important point, maybe also, which came up during the pandemic very strongly, was the collecting policy of libraries. Because in this age, many libraries tend to say we collect e-only or e-preferred. So if there's a print book or an e-book, they will buy the e-book or the electronic resource, and they will allocate more money for electronic resources than print resources. And here the seminar on the acquisition of Latin American library materials, called SALAM, has a task force, and the resolution warned that collecting policies which prefer electronic acquisitions at the expense of print risk excluding from their growing collections a significant portion of the cultural and scholarly production of these regions. such policies threaten the diversity of representation in the library collections by further marginalizing already marginalized voices. And I think, yeah, this is still a very important point. And yeah, sometimes it just starts also with the customs where packages from Japan or from other countries outside Europe are stuck, and yeah, a lot of resources have to be mobilized to get even just a parcel with books from the customs. Harvard Library has started an initiative 2 years ago regarding the findability of their sources in non-Latin scripts in their catalog, because many libraries, especially the big libraries worldwide, use the provider Ex Libris and the discovery system called Primo. And they argued that Primo needs to be improved, that the automatic handling of non-Latin data in the specific fields for non-Latin scripts are also indexed, and that they should display non-Latin script fields in the central digital index, because this is important for equity and inclusion. We already discussed about this topic, how this would be arguable today in the US, but still the problem accounts for many libraries worldwide, also for our library in Berlin at the Freie Universität. And it means that even though we have a lot of sources and books, papers and so on in our catalog, you will not find them because the search algorithm is not trained enough to, for instance, find scripts which don't have a tokenization, which don't have spaces between words, and the tokenization has to be adapted. So this is really a barrier for supporting international, interdisciplinary, and especially open research. When it comes to transcriptions, just a very short example. This is from my colleague from the Arabic Studies department, and this here is from our German search guide for the discovery system Primo, where we ask users to write the term Chinese economy in all these transcriptions, because they have changed over time. And if you would want to find all the literature we have, you would have to use all this. And this is so, so stupid, because you could only type these 4 characters, and then you should find with a mapping of simplified and traditional Chinese characters everything what would be there. In Duke University, and some other universities as well, they now started to make users aware of the problem, because we suppose that you as a library user will not think that you will not find something, but if you use a especially discovery system, you always find thousands of hits and have to sort through it, but you do not know that you will not find a lot of things. So Duke University has this statement on bias in library and archives descriptions, where they say that we will also seek to implement projects that remediate legacy metadata lacking non-Latin scripts, thereby creating a discovery environment in which users can more easily discover resources regardless of language and script. At least there's a statement. We have to check how well it works already, but I think this is missing from our catalogs, for instance. And of course, another topic then is about how library subject indexing systems, most of them are more than 100 years old, represent, in this case here, women, African diasporic or African American and Native American and settler colonial histories. In this paper, Sharon Block discovered that while she was doing her research and using the, I think, popular and famous platform JSTOR, that she did not find things, or sometimes she found sources with strange keywords, and then she wrote this paper about that, from a critical algorithm and critical archival studies perspective, these JSTOR topics repeatedly misrepresented and erased work which would otherwise have been findable and usable for her research. And so this really concerns then the power of metadata and the power everybody has who's designing metadata. And I think if you use a repository at your university, you will also write metadata by yourself. And this is especially in the library world, where there are very strict rules how to catalog, and they are very complicated, and you have to get trained and everything. But the topic of ethics and perspective and so on is just about to start, I would say, the discussion about that, and to write guidelines how to change that. And this connects strongly with the decolonizing the library movement, where these barriers are tackled. And here is the example of Cambridge University, where the librarians at the Pembroke College Library found out that, or thought about their collection and shelving, that their institution dates back centuries, and that this resulted in a number of legacy sections across the library that would now be considered outdated or just plainly wrong. And they said that they realized that there were no sections at all for the history of Africa, South America, Oceania, and books on this history of those regions were either subsumed into the history of Britain or European colonial powers. And so they tried to reclassify and especially thought about new keywords and new shelves, how to change that. And I think in the end, over 8,000 books were reclassified in their library. And so I think this is a great initiative, and of course a lot of work. And but still, I think it's really important, especially when the physical will be the mirror of the digital representation of knowledge. In a presentation about in the Digital Humanities Conference in the German-speaking countries in 2022, the keynote speaker, Amalia Levy, talked also about the gaps. So the responsibility as collections become data that cultivate responsibility was her topic. And she said that that means equity and justice of knowledge should be included into collections and data for collections. Serendipitous discovery for underdiscovered data sets. So how can we strengthen these underdiscovered data sets to be findable? And non-exploitable community participation also when it's research in regions with researchers in other regions or communities, the collaboration as translation among multiple disciplines. And so it would be very much important to conduct ethnography of data sets. What collection is it derived from? How did that collection come to be? Who are the creators? And I think in libraries, it's always taken as a given. It's there. And but why is it there? And which influence does it have? And what does this mean? What is not there, or maybe what is hidden. As we talked about it, a lot of research material in non-Latin script is hidden. It's there, but it's hidden because it's not regarded as important, and nobody gets hired to catalog it, although there are area studies experts. So I think that was a very good point. And at the same conference, there was also an interesting talk by Gerben Saxma from the DH Center in Luxembourg, where he also talked about the political dimension of archival and curatorial work, which institutions digitize and control digital collections. What is digitized and why? What is metadated? How is it classified and how is it metadated? How is access provided and mediated? I think these questions are really important for libraries and archives to ask themselves and to make notes about that. Who are Multilingual Digital Humanists Initiative? To create user personas. So user personas are, I think, maybe most of you know, a method to think about, to humanize needs and I think they were developed also to think about not only the main user, but also maybe who is not represented and how can this be more understandable, what is needed when it comes to technology development and the user interfaces and so on. And it is also about addressing user stories. And in Germany, we had a workshop organized from the BMBF, the ministry, on the dynamics of small disciplines. And it was about digitalization in teaching and research. And all the problems we talked about before were mentioned: the annotation standards, the wide spectrum, the tools which are not optimized, the small amounts of ground truth data for training algorithms, and so on. And the advice was: learn how to address your specific needs to higher education politicians, administration, and funders by using concrete examples. So present more user stories, because the experience is, if you start, if you come with the 2 books, rare books on Chinese studies, you are always, just an edge case, or you are just one person, and it seems very, difficult, complicated. But actually, when the stories make clear how research, it's not just an edge case to have material in non-Latin scripts or many scripts and languages, then more resources will be allocated. And with our Multilingual DH initiative, together with Alice Horvath, David Risley, and also Cornelius van Lith, we started to create these personas based on the interview data we had collected. So we had 50 answers from digital humanists all over the world. And it's only 50 for a start, but still we used this, and then we discussed the personas at various conferences and workshops and asked, can you relate? Is this what is missing? And we published about that also. And actually, at the moment, we are working on a digital humanities manifesto project together with the digital humanities special interest group on multilingual DH. And I have one example from the personas for you, of course, a PhD student in East Asian Studies, and Olivia. And in our workshops, we started to enact the personas because we thought that makes it more understandable and more real. So I would here just like to read one interview question for the persona, Olivia. So Olivia, what are some of the key concerns in your work in digital humanities? And Olivia would answer, I work with a variety of literary works produced in the late imperial period in China. I was initially interested in focusing on the analysis of the representation of women in a handful of specific works. The pandemic, however, has greatly impacted my progress because it delayed my travel to China for dissertation research. On the other hand, I discovered that many of the materials I needed were available in a digitized format thanks to the digitization initiatives of several libraries. This was my first encounter with what might be called digital humanities, which also encouraged me to read more about this field. I found some, although not many, publications in Chinese studies which integrated digital methods into their inquiry, which I found both very eye-opening and challenging. And then there's another interview question about her opinion on the main challenges. And here Olivia would answer, I just read the second part. I just do not see how people without background in computer science progress from beginner to advanced level. The leap seems to be huge. I've also noticed that many DH publications are co-authored papers, but as a graduate student, I'm supposed to produce an individual contribution to my field. So I should and want to be able to create these results on my own. A comprehensive guide about available platforms that do not require coding would be helpful too, with particular attention made to software that can handle non-Latin scripts. I've heard about several such platforms here and there, but a more structured and systematic guide would be much appreciated. So yeah, the idea is that these personas could be used, for instance, by other stakeholders to make more visible that this is not just a very singular researcher of a small discipline, but that, yeah, this is something which libraries and knowledge infrastructure providers should care about. If we think about what can be done, you talked about it already, and Gerben Saxma also mentioned it in his talk, engage more with digital archivists and librarians. So of course it's from both sides. But yeah, and actually in a project I have the honor to be part of the Chinese Studies Department at Freie Universität and the Excellence Cluster Temporal Communities. We now organize a faculty library workshop on redesigning the modern religious bookshelf. And it's about reclassifying religious literature, because here the topic is how the understanding of the notion of religion is marginalized in Eurocentric classification systems, which always have the Christian religion as the model, and the others are differing. And so I'm very excited. It will be in the end of July. So in the next summer school, I can report how this collaboration worked. And yeah, something maybe you also can find in your library or in the national libraries are, I think, library labs. Sometimes it's even a multilingual digital humanities lab, like in our Ada Lovelace Center for DH at our university. But I think library labs are the places where often also researchers are managing this lab and are trying to be critically providing data and tools and working together with faculty. And I just came from a discussion at the German Librarians Conference with the Berlin State Library Lab and the Bodleian Digital Scholarship Lab, where the colleagues who are managing these labs were saying, yeah, how important it is to have or get in contact with faculty, but how difficult it sometimes is to establish collaborations. So yeah, I think this might be also a place to look for open-minded people in the library. And of course, yeah, in Germany we have this for-memory collaboration, where it is also about historical multilingual research data. And that's also, yeah, I think interesting initiative where humanities researchers are talking about research data and what it means for historical sciences. And this is a great place, yeah, to collaborate, I think. And finally, of course, we have these working groups, which have already been mentioned. So from the German-speaking area to the European level at Daria, or in the international ATHO association, the Special Interest Group on Multilingual DH. And yeah, so maybe to summarize that, yeah, what can be done, I would say the strengthening of community building in order to form a stronger international and diverse lobby group and community of interest would be really important, also to make yeah, the political and management decisions regarding funding of multilingually enabled knowledge infrastructure possible. And of course, this also means to collaborate with colleagues from the language regions and areas who are experts in DH or in library science or whatever. And what I'm dreaming of especially is a certificate for multilingually enabled digital knowledge infrastructures, because I learned that all technical things in libraries work with certificates, so a repository or whatever. And so I would wish for a certificate which also includes multilinguality, that the repository has to cater for other scripts as well. But until now, unfortunately, it's not part of the certificates I know of yet. And as a method to have workshops about this topic, I found very inspiring the work of Doris Althutter about mind scripting workshops, where she invites IT experts and researchers and to say what is in your mind when you think about building this tool or working together on a platform, and to get a mutual understanding of what is it about. So I would like to just recommend or maybe give this idea and the text for further discussion.